Folks, it continues. So, the other day, I made a video talking about Punk and his AEW exit, and I kind of thought that was going to be it, but then another kind of sub-story has been working its way through, and I couldn't help but talk about it, and now I'm talking about good old corny Jim Cornette. And he's definitely someone who I have to preface this by saying he is someone who I take a lot of his wrestling wisdom and knowledge to heart, because this is a guy who clearly has a lot of passion for the business, a lot of knowledge for the business, and I respect the amount of time and energy and sacrifices the man has made throughout his career for various wrestlers and other promotions outside of his own. I used to love binge watching a lot of the stuff on YouTube with his stories and the stuff he did with kayfabe commentaries. But I wanted to talk about this because it's been trending a lot, and he's made it no secret how he feels about the whole issues he's had with AEW and CM Punk, or I should say not really with CM Punk, but rather the EVPs. And if you've followed Jim for a while, you know he is not a fan of Kenny Omega and the Bucks, as various other members of the AEW roster. And with everything that happened with Punk being released from AEW, of course he has, he's chimed in with his own opinion, and that's fine. He's, he's well within his right to do that. But apparently, I think it's gotten to the point where we're starting to lose touch with reality just a little bit, and I'm not going to be the person to bring him down, but I've been seeing a lot of stuff, and it's very reminiscent to how Cornette operates, where he's very unapologetic with his takes until you start talking to him about it, or you start retweeting him, and then, suddenly he's blocking people left and right. I'll get to that in a minute. So, kind of getting into the stuff I've been seeing on Twitter. Cornette now goes on another rant about AEW Senior Vice President and Chief Legal Officer Megan Parekh, I believe is how you pronounce her name. My apologies if that's not, but Mega. So Tony Khan finally made a decision, you think? I thought whoever really calls the shots over there is the one that would make a decision this big. I'm thinking it's Mega over there. She's been involved with this since the start because she is one of the people that burst into CM Punk's locker room along with the Buckaroos and their ilk, and started the whole deal a year ago, and we all know she's close, not as close as she is to some of the boys. I'm like, okay. So right there, I'm just going to stop. If she's the chief legal executive, I'm pretty sure she went in there with the EVPs to address the fact that he literally just buried the EVPs during the media scrum, and I'm sure she was there as far as part of legal representation. I don't really see an issue with that. I think trying to shoehorn it in, it's like, well, she's one of them, and I'm like, I would argue she's just doing her job. And then he would go on to talk about how I don't want to get into the whole thing about contracts and stuff like that, and she's been trying to collect evidence with her friends and the Buckaroos. Okay, well, that's slander right there. She's the one who I'm sure had a big hand in wherever the other pennant, whoever she wanted to pull, whatever. I'm reading this and oh my god, Tony was so scared. Okay, that's referring to it was something I didn't talk about in the last video. Apparently, there was now allegations that Punk lunged at Tony, and Tony was fearful for his life. I'm sure Tony, if that did happen, Tony was somewhat afraid, but I don't know. I would definitely need more on that. And if Punk really did lash out at Tony, and Tony to me does not look like he's the kind of person who's really been in any fights. So I wouldn't be surprised if merely someone yelling at him would be enough to get his panties in a bunch. But that right there is Cornette out of touch yet again. So now he's gone into conspiracy theorist mode where he thinks that the chief legal officer and the EVPs and all of them are all conspiring together against Punk, because he has been firmly in the Punk camp since the whole media scrum incident and the stuff that was going on the weeks prior with Hangman Page. So it's been that. Apparently Vince Russo and Cornette have had very similar takes on Tony Khan, saying he was fearful for his life. Again, I'm not commenting on that because I need more on it personally. Reminder, whenever Cornette criticizes another promotion booking, he's had this in a promotion he ran solely. Yeah, I can't pretend that he hasn't done some weird stuff either. Now it's talking about how, like, Cornette, like, someone like Orange Cassidy, who he's openly criticized and he can't stand, now the fans have turned to really like Cassidy over the workload that he's been doing since being in AEW, especially as the most recent champion. Oh, look, there's my post. Okay, so I guess he responded to this. He goes, if anyone thinks I lied about anyone, they can sue me and we'll work it out in discovery when everyone's under oath telling the truth for once. So that's him, I think, just trying to flex the fact that he has some money and he can afford to take the lawsuit. So I don't really support the Billy Mitchell approach of let's just go to court and handle it. It's called an opinion, buddy. I hate Cornette and his cult following. I really do feel like it's turned into a cult following as of late. Anytime Jim Cornette starts off with, you effing moron, Tony, you know it's going to be good. Yeah, it's because he has nothing else positive to say. So I'm just kind of going through a little bit. There was one story on here. I'm trying to find it. Oh, okay. Honestly, the first time Cornette went with an extreme solution is something he doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter in his personal life, like the time he wished someone would slit the Elite's throats, made the Hitler comparison. Owen went on to comment, and went next to his comment about women, and tried to inadvertently start a hate mob over Twitter. Oh, yeah. I don't really care if Hitler was an amazingly talented painter. He should get no compliments. These F's, Omega, Ibushi, same thing. Boy, he's just a very positive person. That's Cornette. He's always been the kind of guy to call it like how he sees it, but I'm noticing that if you genuinely are on his short list of people he does not like, you're screwed. And I don't think anyone has ever made it off of that list. And with all due respect, he's kind of made it. Like, that's him. That's how he continues to get attention and he gets support, is because of his extreme takes. And it's not really indicative of someone who is growing and, getting with the times. Like, this is a guy who supports CM Punk despite the fact that Punk is the one who's taking the extreme measures in these situations, but then he openly calls for people to go after other wrestlers because he just doesn't like things about them personally. Like, I know with the Bucks and with Omega, a lot of his issues are he's sick of the spam finishers and the match is going too long, and he feels like it's hurting the business. And my reaction to that is that does not happen every single match. It happens much less frequently than you think. And honestly, it's really only bad if you're looking at it from the prospect of a very old-timey wrestling way. And I don't know if this is a Russo take, but the times kind of have to change in order for the product to stay new and fresh and get new people on it. There is a reason why as we got into the 90s and everyone still had the mindset of the decades prior, there was a reason why there was such a massive lull in the 90s for wrestling, and it was because time had not caught up to it yet. But yeah, Cornette is very much stuck in a time of the past. And again, I do think it's very funny that oh yeah, up here. Since Jim Cornette is trending, he doesn't like it when people bring up videos of him saying the N-word. I I'm not going to comment on that, but Jim Cornette loves to block people who calls out his nonsense, and that's, if he doesn't retweet you saying, mentioning law, well, you can handle it in a courtroom if you want to, and I'm like, it's Twitter, dude. It's Twitter. They can have their opinion on it just like you. Yeah, just kind of going through what was the glory that is Jim Cornette. So, to kind of put it in a retrospect here and not do an ad for Ryan Fitzpatrick, because I don't care. I don't care. What's Cornette has a brilliant wrestling mind, but this is how I see him. Yeah, he's not wrong. These guys are just a bunch of indie losers, right? They're never actually going to compete with WWE, right? Quit having fun. Like that. That to me is what I feel Cornette is. He's someone who can just not turn off his brain and enjoy himself. Khan and people in AEW have made it very clear it's their promotion. They're going to do it the way they want to. That's the alternative they want. They're not making the mistakes that Impact did, where they're like, we're going to do everything WWE does, but we're going to do it with a much less budget and on a much less scale. Oh, look at that. We're not actually competing. But anyway, to kind of bring it back to what I was saying. So Cornette's problem is that he has problems with the people in the company because he doesn't like how they're running the company, and he has zero problem with people like Punk who go out there and expose the business, which essentially he did multiple times. Every time he does his shoot interview, or he did his media scrum, or he takes to Twitter or Instagram even, and he posts his cryptic nonsense. I shouldn't say cryptic. The people who shoot on him are extremely cryptic, and no one even knows they're talking about him or whoever he has a problem with. It's the whole thing is just dumb. The whole thing is so stupid, and the fact that Cornette can still just... The fact that he can't, or he won't, kind of get with reality a little bit and just say to himself, you know what? This was clearly not working in AEW with Punk. There was things going on there that wasn't working. He wasn't meshing with the EVPs. Even when they had the chief legal officer in there, he was still... If that is true, then that means that Punk was perfectly okay with throwing the first punch with the person who is the chief legal counsel or officer of the company in the room. What does that tell you about the guy who's in his mid-40s, who is supposed to be one of the biggest draws, if not the biggest draw for the company, if he doesn't have enough respect for the business to protect the business? The very same thing that Cornette has talked about for every promotion he has worked for, about wanting to protect the business, especially toward the latter part of his career. When he all the videos he used to talk, or he would mention just people going out there and exposing the business, especially when he was talking about the EVPs. They're out there they're exposing the business, they're hurting the business. I'm like, and what do you think Punk is doing every time he gets into these fights? That he is instigating by calling them out by names. I heard one person had to take, well, no, he didn't mention the Bucks or Omega in the media storm. I'm like, he said EVPs, and anyone with half a brain cell could have easily Googled that and could have come up with those names. It's not like no one knew about it. Everyone knew. Everyone knew. Let's not play stupid. Let's not play dumb. But he's all for Punk being the one to call people out and throwing the first punch, but he's the first person to defend Punk when he, does those things. And now he gets fired, and Cornette's take is, it's very reminiscent of old school schoolyard nonsense where you're defending the people that you know are your friends, despite them being wrong, but you're going to do it anyway because they're sticking up for what you feel is right. And it's something that Jim has always been for years that I can see. He's always been that guy to stick to his own guns to the point where even if he's dead wrong, he will die on that hill. I mean, there's a reason why he's made the better, like, the last 10 years of his career been all about shoot interviews on how he feels about people in the wrestling business who he can't stand. He wishes death on people he doesn't like. He is... Oh my God, like, I find it funny how this guy has made it so vocal on his disdain for people, so many people in this industry, Vince Russo, Jim Hurd, Mark Madden, all kinds of people, Omega, how he feels about Vince McMahon at times, how he feels about how WWE does things, and how he would do things better. And when it comes to, like, maybe the booking aspect of it, I will argue that I think he makes good points, but I do think he is still stuck in a time period where it's not going to get over nearly as much as you do. And when you create a fan base of people that is purely one-sided and very extreme, all it's going to do is just breed more division. So I guess if I had one thing to say on the whole Cornette thing is take everything this man says with a grain of salt. He can be entertaining. He can have a very good take on things in the wrestling business. And if something's, like, legitimately wrong, fine. But there is a difference between being wrong and taking ownership of it and defending the people who are wrong, but because they're publicly against people you don't like, you're going to now question why, Khan is firing the guy who's openly starting fights with people in the locker room who are about half his age, or EVPs in the company, but then, he'll talk about how he comes back and, he does what he does for the boys in this amazing company, but he's just, he's going to fight the boys in the back and the people who run this company. So that's just my take on that. Do with it as you will.